Hi everyone, hi, welcome to today's video, which is going to be a walkthrough, stroke review, maybe not a full walkthrough, but certainly a review of a deck that I have had a conversation about with several people recently. And I've had a few requests from people for me to do a walkthrough of the deck when I received it. Those of you who watched the Hermit's Cave interview with Octoberskys of a week or so ago will know that one of the big decks that was discussed in that was the Chrysalis Tarot. And during the chat, while I was in the chat room and watching the video of the interview, I went ahead and bought it because it's a deck that has been on my wish list for a long time. And the reason that I went ahead and bought it is that really that interview between Simon and Courtney kind of coincided actually with a decision that I have made recently regarding the kind of tarot decks that I want to be focusing on at the moment and spending my money on at the moment. And really the decision I've made is that I want to, for the time being, focus only on decks that add something to the tarot system. So that's not to say that I'm not going to occasionally buy, you know, maybe a Rider-Waite clone or a Thoth inspired deck. And in fact I have actually received in the post today, as well as the Chrysalis Tarot, I've also received another tarot deck which I'm going to film a review of probably as soon as I finish this video, and that is actually a fairly standard Rider-Waite style deck, although there is a slight difference in it, but it's not a whole new system. But the Chrysalis Tarot to some extent is a whole new system, or at least it's a significantly different system than the one that we're used to in Rider-Waite and Thoth and so on. And that's one of the reasons that I actually had originally resisted buying it, because I just thought I haven't got time to learn a new system. Then I had the experience of recently buying a few decks, very nice decks, but that were really just, not just, but were really different versions of the fairly standard Rider-Waite system or Marseille system or Thoth system, which might have had really nice artwork and an interesting history, and that would have been enough to have attracted me to them. And then when I've received them, I've kind of thought, yeah, nice, but I'm not being excited by them. And so I thought, actually, maybe I've almost taken the wrong track here, and instead of denying myself the opportunity to dip into decks that are offering a different system, maybe I should actually embrace that. So I'm actually making a short list at the moment of decks that offer an alternative or an additional system to the ones that we are perhaps used to in the standard sense. And I know that even the standard, so-called standard tarot systems are in many respects not standard, and have a lot of complexity to them, and there's always something new to learn. So I'm certainly not saying that I know all there is to know about those systems. It's just that I feel like if I'm going, of all the decks that I could be buying, I want to focus on buying those that are adding something to the tarot system that I know and love so well. So on that note, if any of you have recommendations for decks that fall into that category, please do let me know, because I have got a short list, a growing short list of decks that fall into that category, and I am going to be focusing on them for the time being. The Chrysalis Tarot being the first of those, but I'd be very interested to know of others. One of them that's on my wish list and that I'll probably go for quite quickly is the fifth tarot, which is the one that adds an extra suit of lotuses, which relates to ether. Diane Jarecki did a good review of that in one of her most recent videos, so I'll link that below if I remember to do that. And we can take it from there. So any ideas you've got, please do share them with me. So excuse me, I'm slightly distracted because I'm looking out the window and I can see that Maya is in a standoff with her arch enemy, Fluffy Cat, which is a very beautiful cat that comes into the garden, and for some reason Maya just does not like this cat at all, and every time we believe it's a he, comes into the garden, she chases him out and jumps on his head, and she currently has him cornered behind our neighbour's compost bin. He is trying to slope away and he's just out of view, and Maya is just making sure he is off the premises. Yeah, so hopefully that little standoff is over. Anyway, hopefully nothing too untoward will happen. I won't have to go rushing out to rescue her or our neighbour. Anyway, back to where I was. So the Chrysalis Tarot. So one of the things that I was aware of when I first heard of this tarot was that it did offer up a different kind of system to the traditional, and some of the archetypes and the major arcana and so on were different. So what I'm going to do with this video is I've literally just received it today. I've only had a cursory look at the book. I've gone through and made some notes of some things that I want to look at a bit more and also draw your attention to. And I've only had one look through the cards, so this is kind of a first impressions video as much as anything else. In terms of the packaging that it comes in, it came in this box, which I don't think I'll keep, but it's a box which included the deck of cards and included the guidebook, and also includes this this spread, this poster, which provides places for a spread called the Chrysalis Fairy Ring spread. And if I move back a bit, you'll be able to see what that is. And what it's suggesting is that it tells you which cards you put in places 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, although you get some choice over those, and then the cards that you actually draw for your reading are these 4, which make up the fairy ring, and that's your answer. So we might come back to that if we have time and see what that means for us. But in terms of the tarot itself, let me just maybe start with pointing out a couple of things from the guidebook. The first thing I noticed is that in the first part of the guidebook, what the authors have done is they have set aside the first 5 chapters for particular cards and particular archetypes, and each one is given a little bit of space to kind of describe the things that are of particular importance to this archetype. So for example, chapter 1 is LP's Cosmic Insights, and LP is the character that is on the star card. Then we have for chapter 2 we have Papa Legba's Unseen Travels, and Papa Legba, which is a kind of voodoo archetype, I believe, is the strength card. The full card, as you'll see in a moment, is Marilyn, and chapter 3 is Marilyn's Great Matter. Chapter 4 is the Hermit card, that's the storyteller and storyteller's vision quest. So this is an example of what I'm talking about. And then chapter 5 is Morgan's Cauldron of Rebirth, and Morgan Le Fay is the sorceress in this deck and is the high priestess equivalent. So just a couple of quotes from the introductory chapter as well, in terms of what the author Tony Brooks is saying about tarot. He's saying here, a tarot deck, after all, is a metaphysical looking glass designed to pinch the higher realms of reality. In this regard, tarot is a good deal like shamanism. This companion book will acquaint you with the higher realm we call the other world, and hopefully help you befriend it, learn to communicate with it, and listen to it. Hopefully, you will allow the other world to inform you, just as you in turn inform it. Given the crazed world we live in today, there can be no better time to expand your mind, grow the quality of your consciousness, and re-examine your views on the nature of reality. And then what else he says is, our unique deck of 78 tarot cards was crafted to help midwife this new existential reality, a reality we describe at times as holistic consciousness and at other times as cosmic consciousness. They imply the same thing. We symbolize this new consciousness throughout Chrysalis Tarot with beautiful butterflies and striking symbols of personal transformation. Chrysalis marches to a different drum. It seeks to help you forge a pathway to destiny and cosmic consciousness. The pathway is the ageless hero's journey, the monomythic quest for unity. So some interesting thoughts there. So if we go on to look at some of the cards, and what I'm going to do is we'll go through the cards and I'll stop every so often with the majors, and where we come across a major that is different to the traditional tarot archetype that we might be used to, I will stop and read something from the book, and we can you know, just look at it in a bit more detail. What comes in the deck is a little white book, and I believe this was released originally with just the deck of cards and the little white book. And I've seen some reviews online from people who obviously got the deck when this was all that was available, and I haven't looked in detail at it, but I suspect it doesn't include as much information as it could about why particular choices were made in terms of the particular archetype. So I've seen some reviews where people have questioned some of the archetypes in the major arcana. I have to say, partly because I think I knew that this was going to be a very different deck, when I went through the deck to start with and looked at the major arcana cards, I actually didn't find myself questioning any of them because I expected them to be different. And some of the different ones, I actually felt pleasantly surprised about them, and I'll come on to that in a second. So, little white book, there is a little introductory card. I think that's the wheel. Oh, is that the Wheel of Fortune? I think that's the Wheel of Fortune image that's on there. And then there's a card about the artist and the author. The artist being Holly Sierra, the author being Tony Brooks. Here's the back of the cards, very beautiful, reversible obviously. The cardstock is good. It's firm, flexible, not overly laminated. I think these will shuffle very well. Very nice cardstock, and the colours on these is just fantastic. So are just fantastic. So let's go through the cards, and we'll start with one that is kind of controversial. It's one of the ones that a lot of people have questioned. It's the Fool, of course, and in this, the Fool is also known as the Hero. And we have Marilyn. I'm just trying to get the right angle so I don't blind you with the light. That should be okay. So this is Marilyn, the Hero. Lovely image. I actually like the borders on this. I've seen some videos where people have trimmed the borders. I don't feel any desire at this stage to do that because I think they don't detract from the image for me. And I think, if I'm right, if you put them together, the borders actually kind of match up if you stick them together. So I can see there's a little spiral and a little love heart that are completed. I don't know how well you can see that, but are completed when you put these cards together. So for me, the borders actually add to the deck, so I don't think I'll trim them, although I think I might do what some people have done. I think octoberskys might have done this and got a second deck and trimmed that, so I've got one of each. Anyway, Marilyn as the hero, as the fool, what does this mean? Well, I know that some people haven't been very happy about this. From my point of view, I immediately resonate with that because after all, why shouldn't Marilyn be the hero of a story? Marilyn, from his own perspective, is the hero of his life story in the way that we all are. So I don't have a problem. I don't look at that and think Marilyn can't be the hero, it's got to be King Arthur. I look at it and think, oh, how interesting. Here's a different type of hero that we've got for this deck. So I like that. And let's just, I'll read a bit from the book and see if this illuminates any of it. Again, I don't know everything that's in the book, so I can't guarantee that it will, but it'll be worth just getting a sense of what the deck creators were thinking of. So Marilyn. When we decided upon Marilyn as our hero, the decision immediately brought to mind my explorations at Tintagel on the romantic Cornish coast. This is the bit in italics, I believe, is written by the artist who's talking about the inspiration for the images. And then the next bit of text is by the author. So I've been to Tintagel, so I absolutely recognise, where they're coming from. Now that's interesting. I don't know if this is true all the way through, but the image in the book and the image on the cards is slightly different. I don't know if you can see that. If you look particularly at the cat, so appropriate that I would just instantly home in on the cat, isn't it? You can probably see that it's not the same image of cat, although the Marilyn image is similar, but they are different. I don't know if that's true throughout the book or whether that's relevant, but I've just noticed it. Where was I? When we decided upon Marilyn as our hero, the decision immediately brought to mind my explorations at Tintagel on the romantic Cornish coast. I love Tintagel. I've been there several times, and now that I've read that, I want to go back again. Especially memorable was my trek to Marilyn's cave. It was very atmospheric, and one could easily envisage Marilyn approaching, his cloak glimmering with staff held high to light the darkness of the cave. I wanted our Marilyn to appear as the wizards of my childhood did, approachable, loyal, dependable, somewhat wizened, but ready for adventure and the task at hand. As I had encountered so many wonderful cats on my adventures in England, I decided a feline made the perfect companion for our sage friend. I could not agree more. After Chrysalis's publication, I moved across country to Sedona, Arizona, where I encountered a lovely statue of Marilyn in the centre of the village. For me, this depiction of Chrysalis's hero encouraged me to begin my new life with renewed faith and high hopes. That's lovely. And now, of course, wizards, you tend to think wizard, surely that would be the archetype for the magician, more appropriately, and here it's the fool, or the hero of the story. So this is what the author is saying. Merlin portrays the archetype of the wise old man. Hopefully he brings new life and high hopes to your readings as you embark upon your own hero's journey. Merlin represents your alter ego, a friend, spirit guide and mentor who remains by your side as you interpret Chrysalis cards, whether he should appear in a particular reading or not. The hero's journey is known as a monomyth, a term coined by James Joyce and popularised by Joseph Campbell in his book The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And I did a brief review of a Joseph Campbell inspiration deck a few videos ago, if you're interested in his work. Campbell noted the hero's myth was found in cultures all over the world. Western civilization's principal analogue is, of course, the Odyssey by Homer. So, to me, this makes sense. You know, for me, tarot is about, one of the major things about tarot is it's about us being enabled and empowered to tap into our own wisdom. So what better representation of the hero of the journey than the wise wizard Merlin? So for me, this really, really works. So I'm happy with that. For the magician, we have the ravens, ravings almost. Gorgeous image, I love that. This instantly makes me think of Hugin and Muggin, Odin's ravens. I don't know if that's what's being referenced here, but let's see what they say in the book. Again from the artist. The ravens, or as they have made themselves known to me, the tricksters. I first saw Hugin and Munin, in an old illustrated manuscript where they were depicted sitting on Odin's shoulders, bringing him pearls of wisdom and regaling him with tales of their explorations. I loved the aged quality this old depiction held. I hope you're seeing these properly. Maybe I should turn that. Oh, that's better. I decided to have our ravens perched on the Yggdrasil, whose branches are filled with designs inspired by my love of fractals. So, yes, lots of interesting archetypal imagery there. The Sorceress, this is, I believe, Morgan Le Fay. I'm not going to say too much about this card, partly because I think this kind of works as an archetype. I don't have a problem with this archetype. It seems like a good one to me. Similarly for Gaia as the Empress, very appropriate, very beautiful. And Green Man for the Emperor, yep, that also makes sense. Here's an unusual one, Divine Child for the Hierophant. So let's see what they say. Divine Child. Divine Child does not enter the world as a tabula rasa, a blank slate. Far from it. He or she enters bearing a palette of unrealized self-potential and a paintbrush for the process that C.G. Jung termed individuation. A fully individuated human being is one who has recovered destiny, the soul's ultimate purpose and destination. As your inner voice, Divine Child frequently whispers reminders that you must paint your own canvas, that you are personally responsible for attaining your own destiny. So it's a bit like the inner teacher, the Hierophant being the teacher, the inner teacher. Lovers, fairly standard lovers card. I love this, Herne the Hunter for the Chariot. The Chariot is my outer birth card. I work with a system that I kind of modified from the traditional one of you take your birth date and you add the numbers up and you get your birth card, and I add in my birth time. If I don't add in my birth time, I get Hermit the Hunter, or I get the Chariot, number 7, and that's Hermit the Hunter in this. If I do add in my birth time, I get the Hermit. Matte for Justice, and that kind of makes sense to me because I think Matte, in terms of the Egyptian pantheon, relates to justice, divine justice, so that's okay. Here we have the Hermit, my inner birth card, and I love this because it's the storyteller, and this really resonates with me because as a writer, you know, that really works for me. That speaks to me, and I'm actually going to do a video series soon on a number of things connected to my my inner birth card, the Hermit, so watch out for that. I'm going to work on that very soon. I'm still gathering my thoughts on that one, but I'll say more about this then. Wheel of Fortune, again, nothing to argue with there. Then Papa Legba, Strength. Now Papa Legba plays a big part in the Chrysalis Tarot. You know, as I said, he had his own chapter at the beginning, so let's just see what they say about Papa Legba. Yeah, we might even say that Papa's spirit and energy pervades Chrysalis Tarot. As we discussed in Chapter 2, Papa Legba's unseen travels, Chrysalis is a dialogue with the collective unconscious. Papa, a gatekeeper and messenger, is at your side in every reading. He is our liminal betwixt and between archetype, who attends the crossroads that lead from this world to the magical world beyond. He vivifies the dialogue between tarot reader, the individual cards, and the other world. One of the objectives of Chrysalis is to assist in sharpening your natural intuitive and psychic abilities through spiritual growth and development. Papa's telephone lines accommodate two-way communication. The drawing on Papa Legba's rock wall is called a Vive. It's his otherworld phone number, so to speak. That's that, presumably. Yeah. One of the easiest ways to read Chrysalis is to take Papa from the deck and set him to one side as you perform a reading using 2 or 3 drawn cards. In no time at all, you'll notice an exponential increase in your ability to understand Chrysalis cards intuitively. They are very talkative, and practice makes perfect. That's very interesting. And look at his face. I hope that's focusing. A kind face. A wise, kind face. Celtic Owl for the Hanged Man. I'm not going to look in the book, but to me that also makes sense because the Hanged Man is about different perspectives and the Celtic Owl is very much a messenger through the other world, so that makes sense. Ariadne as Death. That again makes sense. Ariadne's thread into the underworld. Golden Flower for Temperance. Beautiful temperance colours in the fishes. Here's an interesting one, and not one that I'm particularly familiar with. Bella Rosa as the Devil. So let's see what we have to say about this. I'll work through the other cards a bit more quickly, but these are worth spending a bit of time on. Bella Rosa is a Venetian muse who epitomises the spirit of the Carnival of Venice. Our mysterious androgynous free spirit holds court during the renowned annual masquerade ball. During the time I painted Bella Rosa, my dear friend Mariana in Romania sent me an amazing series of photographs of the costumes at the carnival. I felt that Tony's idea of depicting Tarot's traditional devil as a costumed Venetian at the carnival was pure genius. There is an endlessly enigmatic aspect to a masked individual. I chose to remove any hint of humanity behind the mask by making the eyes empty, cavernous black holes. This shadowy quality leaves interpretation to the viewer's imagination. So, lovely. I'm going to have a sip of water. Again, one that makes sense. Kali as the Tower. Sorry, I'm moving a bit fast there. Very powerful image. Elpie as the Star. The moon is the moon. The sun is the sun. Very beautiful sunny card, but interestingly with a teardrop. And I like that because it's a bit like the yin and the yang, you know. Within, it's like everything turns into its opposite. So within brightness and delight and joy and so on, you know, an acknowledgement of sorrow and sadness isn't necessarily a bad thing. So I think that's rather lovely. Then Phoenix as judgment. And I absolutely love this. Psyche as the world. And the reason I love this is obviously Psyche, you know, Psyche relates to a specific being, character. Let's just see exactly what it says in the deck. Yeah, since the word psyche in Greek means butterfly or soul, Holly and I agreed that Psyche was a perfect fit for the final card in Chrysalis' Major Arcana. She represents transformation of the soul, spiritual ascension and personal enlightenment. Psyche and the butterfly personify the ultimate reward of the hero's journey, the emergence from the chrysalis of authentic self, the soul's highest calling. What it also says to me is it reminds me that the world, we think of the world as this external thing that we are in, and and often the kind of received wisdom is that the world exists and pre-existed before us, and consciousness came out of material matter in the world, and that's the kind of standard view. But there is another view, of course, which is the more non-dual view, the Taoist view. Some Buddhists would say this. And that is that actually it's not that consciousness comes out of matter, but matter exists within consciousness, and in fact everything exists within consciousness or awareness, and that's true of the whole world. So for me it's quite appropriate that Psyche and the world are one in this deck. And it also points to one of the reasons I was attracted to the deck, and one of the points that Octoberskys made about the deck is that it is a deck that feels very pantheistic, non-dualist, monist, the idea that everything is one, everything is divine, everything is sacred, and we are that. And you know, it's not separate to us. It talks about the other world, but in a sense it's about saying that everything within us and our perspective on things is our own link to the other world. So that works really well for me, so I like that very much. So we'll go on now to the suits, and I'll move a bit more quickly with these, but just to tell you a bit about the suits, we again have 4 suits. They relate to the 4 elements, of course, but they're not the traditional suits of pentacles and cups and swords and rods. Instead, for pentacles representing the material world and earth, we have stones. For cups representing, for water, cups representing feelings and emotions, we have mirrors. And for rods representing energy and spirit, fire, we have spirals. And for swords we have scrolls to represent the intellect and intuition, and that's air. And again, I think that just works really, really well. And it moves us away from the traditional kind of representations, but I think these are really appropriate. And again, beautiful artwork. I won't say too much about these individually. I'll just go through them, but just to say, one of the things I like very much about these cards already is that they don't have keywords on them, which I prefer. So they're illustrated pips, and there's quite a lot there for our understanding and intuition to work with. And there are some that I think do very much indicate meanings that we'll be familiar with if we follow the Rider-Waite system or a numerological system through Marseille, etc. And some Thoth indications as well, I think. But they're also their own thing, so they're not exact copies of cards that we've seen before. And I like that. That would be 9 of Swords. And the 10. Such lovely cards. Love the colouring. Love the feel of them. Love the borders. Now, we're on to the courts, aren't we? So that's the Page of Scrolls. And what you'll see is that this page is called the Pilgrim. So let me just say a bit about, or tell you a bit about what they are working with here, because instead of the royal family of the tarot that we're perhaps used to, what they have here is the troupe and troubadours. And in the chapter that they have on this, the theory of the troupe, no one saves, a quote begins it, no one saves us but ourselves, no one can and no one may, we ourselves must walk the path. And what they're saying here is the troupe makes sure that you never walk the path alone. These 16 players, who are also archetypes, are Chrysalis's replacement for Tarot's traditional court cards. There are 8 male characters and 8 female characters, divvied up into 4 roles: mentors, muses, mystics, and messengers. When you encounter troupe members in real life, they may be represented by either sex. Collectively, the troupe are a band of medieval troubadours that travel the countryside bringing news and gossip from afar, along with pithy wisdom and amusing entertainment. So let's just see. The troupe was designed to increase appreciation of the fact that the other world sends important messages to us through other people. The word angel actually means messenger. When you meet a member of the troupe on your journey, you very well could be meeting an angel in disguise. So I think I'm going to keep this bit open just so we can let's go to the bit about scrolls, just so I can give you an idea of, because what they've done on the cards is they have kept the they've got the Page of Scrolls, but in the book they're talking about that being the Messenger of Scrolls. I see why they've done that, so that we know which one relates to which, but I almost wish instead of saying the Page of Scrolls here, it said the Messenger of Scrolls, because it is its own system, and I've got no problem with having to kind of learn your own system. So that's the Messenger of Scrolls, which here is the Page of Scrolls, the Pilgrim. Then we have the Knight of Scrolls, which in the guidebook is the Mystic of Scrolls, and that's the Visionary. Then we have the Queen of Scrolls, which is the Muse of Scrolls in the book, the Weaver. Queen of Swords, obviously. And then for the King of Swords, or the King of Scrolls, the Poet, and this is the Mentor of Scrolls. So instead of Page, Knight, Queen, King, we have Messenger for Page, Mystic for Knight, Muse for Queen, and Mentor for King. And they're given their own titles. So quickly moving through those, we're now on to Mirrors, which is Cups. So the Sojourner, I love this. So this is the Queen of Mirrors, the Queen of Cups, and in my VR to the tarot tag that Dead Cheeky did around the Myers-Briggs, I came out as the Queen of Cups, and so that would make my Myers-Briggs card in this deck the Watcher, and I'm very pleased because I love that card. I just love it. Then we have the Dreamer, Knight of Mirrors. The Healer, which is the Page of Mirrors. 10 of Mirrors, which is the... Oh, see, I'm getting myself out of... So we've gone from Scrolls into Mirrors, which is... That was all planned. It was. It honestly was. So, yeah, so we've done the Scrolls, and then we've done... and so we've gone up to the top of the Scrolls, and now we're, for some reason, I don't know why I've got the card like this, we are going backwards through the Mirrors. So, yes, we've had the King, Queen, Knight of Mirrors, Page of Mirrors. So let's just keep going. Let's just, you know, why not shake things up a bit? 10 of Mirrors, 9 of Mirrors. So we're on to Cups now. 8 of Mirrors, 7 of Mirrors, 6 of Mirrors, 5, much more blue obviously in this now that we're into the watery element. Oh, gorgeous. 3 of mirrors. Look at that face, or those faces, just lovely. 2 of mirrors, 2 of cups. Ace of mirrors. Very nice. Okay, so I don't know quite why those cards were slightly out of order, but now we're back on track and we're on to spirals, which is rods, and we've got the ace. And I love how the spirals are worked into the images here. I mean, that's true of the other cards as well, but it really comes across in this suit. So here the spirals are in the nests. 2 of spirals, 2 of rods. Wow. 3 of spirals with the roots and the Buddha face. 4 of spirals. 5 of spirals, because why wouldn't you have a dragon if you can have a dragon? Oh, 6 of spirals. Now that I'm going to look this one up because that instantly puts me in mind of the Scottish, well, the Gaelic stroke Celtic tradition of tying bits of cloth to near sacred sites like springs and wells and sacred trees and so on. So I might have expected to see this actually in the water suit, but here it is in the fire suit. So if I'm reading that right, the 6 of spirals. Let's see if it relates to that. Well, it's saying here that a pink, a clutie, that's the word for in Scotland, that's the word that they would use for these things. A pink clutie was my inspiration for the 6 of spirals. One often finds ritual cluties hanging on the branches of trees near holy wells. Painting this card held special meaning for me because I participated in the ritual long ago. I was living in Asia at the time and visited many temples where the faithful left offerings to enhance chances that their prayers were heard. So she's picking this up from the east, which might explain why it's not near a holy well, but you know, I know it from the kind of Celtic tradition, so that's a lovely card. 7 of spirals, 8 of spirals, card of movement, lots of movement in that card. 9 of spirals, 10 of spirals, and then we're on to the troop. So the page is the mime, the queen is called the muse in this, the corsair for the knight, and the companion for the king. Great. So we're on to the final suit, and this is the equivalent of pentacles. The earth suit. Ace of stones. 2 of stones. Oh wow. 3 of stones. I love these cards. I can just tell that I'm bonding with this deck as we speak, and unlike some decks that I've received recently where I've thought, oh yeah, they're kind of interesting, maybe I'll do something with these, and then I've kind of put them away and suspect I'll sell them. Well, I've already sold some of them. I won't be selling these. These are definitely staying by my side. I adore them. 7 of stones. 8. 9. A lovely image. 10 of stones. I have to look this up because I think of the 10 of stones or the 10 of pentacles as being about kind of and remember, I'm kind of coming at this with my knowledge of what these things mean in traditional tarot, and I'm not suggesting that they should mean or do mean the same in this one, but I think of the 10 of pentacles or the 10 of stones as being about solidity and groundedness. So Yeah, selenite, so it's selenite that we're seeing here. That's the crystal. Selenite comes in many colours and was named after the Greek moon goddess Selene. The moon plays an important role in our little sprite's ability to detach herself from her possessions and deny them further power over her. Well, I love that, because of course the Ten of Pentacles often means that kind of material comfort, or can mean that kind of material comfort, or arrival at material comfort. And here this is about detachment from possessions. That resonates. Tarot card number 10 mark the end of a cycle that builds a bridge to something new. The something symbolised by the Ten of Stones is a new worldview balanced between the material and spiritual realms. Very appropriate for a deck that has this kind of pantheistic outlook. So we've got the Page of Stones, the Acrobat, the Knight of Stones, the Illusionist, the Artiste is the Queen of Stones, and finally the King of Stones, the Minstrel. So that was and is the marvellous Chrysalis Tarot. I am very impressed. I'm very happy with this purchase. I'm really looking forward to working with this, and I want to say a big thank you to Simon and Courtney from octoberskys for the interview that prompted me to take the plunge and buy this deck. So thanks to both of you. I'll link their channels below, and any other useful resources I can find on the deck, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. I'm going to have a break now. I'm going to film my next video, which will be a walkthrough of a new deck that I also got as a result of a recommendation, so watch out for that. That'll be going up shortly. And until then, and until my next video, I'll see you all again very soon. Take care.